have you ever wondered if we're all completely bonkers? Are we all losing our minds? We've got Bill Gates trying to block out the sun, because that's something that you just do, isn't it? Like that's a normal thing to do, trying to block out the sun. But it is 39 degrees here today in London, so God, maybe it's the right thing to do. We've got Elon Musk creating open AI prisons all around us in these cities, these smart cities, and all these technologies that we're beginning to adorn and eventually will be inserted into our own craniums. The metaverse is nigh. The matrix is here, ladies and gentlemen. It's no longer a hypothesis. It's slowly emergent in society. So things are getting quite interesting, aren't they? We've still got people driving around in cars, of course, with masks just under the chin, just in case, something that never existed might come back. You never know, it's like, it's got to be safe, right? There's a whole sort of can of worms for people to go down. If you're interested in Dr. Stefan Lanka, how the medical industry continually invents epidemics, making billion-dollar profits at our expense. But I won't go down that particular tangent in this video. I want to focus more so on, this possibility that are we all losing our minds? Because it's not something that I used to consider because I was in the matrix myself. Of course, just walking around A to B, home, work, weekend, go to the pub, have a laugh. That's life, right? But what if this whole society has ultimately been socially engineered to capture the mind into our lower centers and to live out our lives as if we are reaching our potential? But it's ultimately our potential in this very individualist world where it's sort of, survival of the fittest. And it's all this sort of one-upmanship, I feel. And really, it's the plight of the individual in lieu of any community development. And there needs to be a balancing at play. It's not that we should be negating one or the other. It's just the simple truth that balance is often the harmonizing principle in nature. So if we can somehow create a socialist foundation, and that for me is where socialism starts and ends, then we can actually begin to truly blossom and flourish in this world as individuals. Ultimately, we are individuals in a collective. So how do we reconcile that? It's not this kind of like disparate one or the other. Often people frame things as black and white, but often the truth is a shade of grey. And so, in this very bizarre world that we find ourselves in, which is increasingly absurd, we've got people naming ploughman sandwich, ploughperson sandwich. We've got Justin Trudeau over in Canada talking about how they don't say mankind, they say people kind. Why not just say humankind, for example? That must sound a little bit better than people kind. But we're basically like, what's happening to this sort of woke mindset? Like, where's this all coming from? Like, where's it ultimately leading us? Because I always remember the George Orwell quote that the further society drifts from the truth, the more it'll hate those who speak it. So on this channel, we're going to be getting into some of these nefarious agendas, some of these sort of black projects, and some of the things that people pretty much aren't familiar with. We've just had Anthony Fauci, remember him? Subpoenaed in court to testify for evidence that this monster, let's call it a monster, might have been actually created in a Wuhan lab. And this is another sort of psyop where it's like, okay, this is one stage of coming into realization that things aren't quite as we've been told. But I feel like they put these additional sub-narratives in to, again, pull people off track, go down cul-de-sacs. That's what's really happening all the time, right? We've got people coming up with these new sort of ideas, even the resurgence of flat earth and these sort of like topics, which for me, again, are just here to distract people and keep us in this sort of false paradigm of what is ultimately enslavement of humanity in a very nefarious psychological way. It's not an overt situation. As George Orwell said, until they become conscious, they will not rebel. And until they rebel, they cannot become conscious. And so due to the restriction of consciousness over humanity at this time, we can't come into the awareness that's required for us to actually realize what Aldous Huxley was saying, in that, the victim of mind manipulation doesn't actually know that he's a victim because his servitude is strictly objective. So we've been born into this socially engineered environment that's making us feel like this is the only way it is. And, that's unfortunate because there are an infinite array of possibilities for us if we can just simply expand our minds. And that's really what I'm trying to do here at newearth.land. So if you're interested in experiencing more freedom, abundance in the world, then do check it out. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.